A Cadres poll predicts victory for Dominica's ruling party in next month's general election. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Thursday, November 21st. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. The governing Dominica Labour Party, DLP, could win a third consecutive term in office if predictions of regional polling agency Caribbean Development Research Services, CADRES, are correct. Ahead of the December 6th general elections, CADRES carried out a poll in which respondents were asked to identify the issues that concern them, who they prefer to lead the country, and how they intend to vote. CADRES Director Peter Wickham, who presented the findings at a news conference in Roseau on Thursday morning, said the major issue on the minds of Dominicans was the economy. 62% of those polled were concerned about that issue. On the matter of who is the preferred leader, 39% of respondents favored Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, who's seeking an unprecedented fourth consecutive term, while 31% chose opposition leader Lennox Linton. 26% did not respond, and 4% were uncertain.
Expectation that the best case scenario now for the Labour Party would be to secure not only a victory, but victory in a couple of the seats which I have identified in our polling, which is not available today, unfortunately, as being breakthrough possibilities. But a landslide, you're looking at the order of an increase in their support of, let's say, 5 or 10 percentage points. I'm not seeing it, but it is entirely possible that it could happen. I do believe that it is an expectation of several Labour Party supporters that will happen. But certainly my own scientific reading is that this exercise is a far more measured one, where the Labour Party is looking at managing a slide as opposed to a situation where they're looking at a landslide in the other direction.
Wickham noted that while Skerrit is the favorite for leader, support for his DLP has declined since the last election. But the pollster says that's not unusual for a party that has been in office for so long. The opposition United Workers' Party, UWP, meanwhile, has gained support since the last polls. But Wickham added that he's also observed voter lethargy ahead of the poll.
Voter lethargy is the extent to which voters are perhaps not excited to vote, or alternatively a lot less enthusiastic about voting than they were in the previous election. And I can tell you at this point that voter lethargy is definitely up in Dominica. I don't believe that comes as a surprise to anyone, in that there is an increased lack of enthusiasm regarding voting, and I'm talking about voting for either political party on this occasion. The question then of success really is about who is better able to motivate voters at this point in time. And I should point out that the issue of voter lethargy can impact negatively on our projections for a Labour win. Certainly if Labour is able to get its voters out on election day and is able to deal constructively with this issue of lethargy, then Labour can win. If, however, the opposition is able to better exploit this issue of lethargy and get its voters out, then the opposition UWP can win.
Staying in Dominica, teachers are taking strike action to protest the delay in increased salary negotiations. President of the Dominica Association of Teachers, Mervyn Alexander, says a meeting of executives is being planned to discuss a way forward. He says a proposal was submitted to the Skerrit administration, and to date there have not been any counter proposals from government's negotiating team. Alexander's appeal to his members came even as the Dominica Public Service Union threatened industrial action over its salary negotiations as well.
Contrary to what has been said on a certain radio station and on the streets, government has not made any counter proposals for salary increases for teachers to the Dominica Association of Teachers. Based on some issues raised at the first meeting of the government negotiating team, it was recognized that there are some very important matters that needed to be discussed with the administrative personnel of the Ministry of Education, which are affecting teachers in this country. From contact with the Chief Personnel Officer, I have been informed that these matters have been discussed, and a meeting with the National Executive will be convened soon to continue our discussion.
Alexander called on the teachers to allow the association to continue to negotiate on their behalf and to conduct themselves in a professional manner.
As teachers of this country, You are charged with the responsibility of imparting knowledge and skills and shaping lives. I urge you, do not allow yourselves to be carried away by what you hear on the streets or the radio station. You want credible information? Contact the people you voted to represent your interest. Negotiation is ongoing, and as soon as we have something concrete, we will call you to inform you, and then we can take the necessary actions or decisions. I further urge you to behave as the professionals that you are, and do not allow anyone or group to use you to drive their own agenda. Certainly, the use of indecent language, smoking marijuana, and drinking alcohol on the streets of Roseau are not the kind of activities nor support you would like to see form part of a protest or demonstration called by teachers. We must behave in a responsible and respectable manner, lest we place ourselves in a situation where we can't command respect from our students and others in society.
Over in Guyana, coalition partners, a Partnership for National Unity, APNU, and the Alliance for Change, AFC, are reassuring their supporters they will be heading into the next elections as a strong unit. Representatives from the two parties emerged from a high-level meeting at the President's office on Thursday afternoon with smiles and assurances that the APNU and AFC are stronger together. AFC leader Kemraj Ramjatan said there is no doubt the two parties will remain together for the March 2020 elections. Ahead of Thursday's talks, President David Granger had made it clear that any agreement between the two sides should not be subject to deadlines or threats. And that's after executive member of the AFC, Dominic Gaskin, last week threatened that the party would contest the elections alone if no agreement was reached. But Granger said on Wednesday that putting a deadline on the discussions would not result in the best outcome.
The negotiations are determined by agreement, not by deadlines. And we have been communicating with each other, meeting, negotiating for much of October and November so far. And the question of a deadline will not necessarily bring about the best outcome. I am very confident that were we to sit without noise, sit down soberly and quietly, we will arrive at an outcome which is the best for Guyana.
Political leader of the Congress of the People's COP in Trinidad and Tobago, Caroline Seprasad-Bachan, is distancing her party from any involvement in the illegal data mining by British political consulting firm Cambridge Analytica, allegedly on the behalf of the United National Congress, UNC. The COP was a partner with the UNC in the previous People's Partnership government led by Kamla Prasad-Besessar. It's alleged that the UNC utilized the services of Cambridge Analytica, which hijacked the profiles of Trinidadians ahead of the 2015 elections. Seprasad-Bachan said her party had nothing to do with that. More from TTT's Ian Wason.
The fallout between the UNC and the COP does not look like it would get any better soon, as the UNC is hitting back at their former government partner over the Cambridge Analytica fiasco. On Monday evening, the UNC claimed they had nothing to do with the now infamous incident that involved the collection of data from the citizens of this country in an effort to win the 2015 general elections. However, COP leader Caroline Seprasad-Bachan says the UNC cannot blame the COP.
Let me say that I feel this is cheap, deceitful, and a malicious attack on the Congress of the People and its members.
She points to the report and shows the entities the report named, including TNTech and WASA, indicating the COP has no authority or jurisdiction over the entities to order the acquisition of the data.
He speaks about the National Security Ministry being given the authorization and the National Security Council.
She singles out the National Security Council and reminds the country who is in charge of the National Security Council.
The National Security Council is chaired by the Prime Minister and comprises certain ministers.
Mrs. Sipasat Bechan says she was not part of the National Security Council at the time of the Cambridge Analytica scandal, but was part of the council between 2010 and 2011 when she was the Minister of Energy. She turns her attention to the government, asking why the Cambridge Analytica scandal was not dealt with earlier, as the population needs to be assured that it will not happen again this year for local government or next year's general elections.
How come we are still at this juncture, almost 18 months later, and this matter was not investigated?
The COP leader is calling on the matter to be dealt with speedily.
Still to come, a group of churches in St. Vincent and the Grenadines allowed to join government's defense to the constitutional challenge to the buggery law. Stay with us.
'Cause you are pure sunshine, baby. God. When you walk, you are hot up the place, God. When you walk, you are hot up the place, God. 'Cause you are pure sunshine, darling. Lord. When you walk, you are hot up the place, God. Shine bright and hot up the place, God. You make my love see grow. Hold me tight and you never let go. Your hands up and you're not go below. You keep me warm when the weather gets cold.
Dixon, and you're watching Finding Fit, the show I pair up one client with two trainers. Trainer number one.
Oh my gosh.
It's about fitness, comedy.
You know, I can do this all day, you know.
Drama.
In future, we cannot be late.
Inspirational stories, and so much more. You are gonna love it. You can catch Finding Fit prime time this fall on CaribVision.
You are watching Caribbean Vibrations TV, coming to you from the beautiful city that is Negril in Westmoreland, Jamaica. And we're here with the co-owner of Patsy's Coffee Shop, Mr. Elton. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, sir.
But the first thing I had to ask you is, what was the inspiration behind the name?
The name came from my partner, Marlon Hall. His mom's name was Patricia. So while we were in the process of opening the business, and we were looking for a name, and sadly his mom passed at the same time.
Vincent and the Grenadines, where High Court Justice Esco Henry has ruled to allow 10 churches to join the government in responding to the constitutional challenge to the country's buggery and gross indecency laws. He handed down the ruling on Wednesday, a week after hearing arguments from the Christian Coalition, and lawyers for the claimants gave Vincentians Sean McLeish and Javin Johnson. Sherlyn Zita Barnwell, one of the two lawyers representing the claimants, told CMC News the judge agreed to allow the churches to join the lawsuit as an interested party. He said they will be allowed to file written submissions and make oral arguments to the court, and the churches are restricted, though, to filing 2 affidavits. Justice Henry is expected to issue the written ruling on Thursday. Barnwell and Jomo Thomas are representing the claimants, who say the country's anti-buggery and gross indecency laws contravene their constitutional rights. The churches had asked to join the Attorney General in responding to the challenge to the laws. A Guyanese man accused of killing a father of 2 3 years ago was on Thursday extradited from the United States to face the murder charge. Marcus Bisram was immediately taken into custody by the Criminal Investigations Department of the Guyana Police Force on his arrival early in the morning. He's expected to appear before a magistrate on Friday to face the murder charge related to the death of 26-year-old Fayaz Nareen Dat, whose body was discovered on October 31, 2016. Police said Nareen Dat had been beaten to death and repeatedly run over by a vehicle. By the time Bisram was identified as the alleged mastermind of the crime, he'd fled the country. 5 others arrested in connection with the murder are being behind bars awaiting trial. Bisram spent the past 3 years fighting his extradition, going all the way to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. The chairman of Jamaica's Economic Growth Council is calling for non-performing permanent secretaries to be removed from their posts. Michael Lee Chin believes this will increase accountability in the public sector and also lead to higher economic growth. We get more from this TV6 News report.
The law does not allow permanent secretaries to be removed from office. For the chairman of the Economic Growth Council, Michael Lee Chin, that's a problem. He says in a corporation, a person responsible for implementation is the chief executive officer. He argues that in governments, permanent secretaries are responsible for the implementation of policies.
In corporations, if a business plan is not executed, the CEO is fired. In governments, if policies are not implemented in a timely basis, no one is fired.
He says until accountability issues are fixed, public sector transformation and higher economic growth will not happen.
We can fix this lack of accountability issue only if both sides of the House work diligently together to change the laws and probably the Constitution pertaining to the removal of permanent secretaries when they are underperforming. Presently, permanent secretaries are permanent. They cannot be removed based on the Constitution. And that is, in Canada, that's not the case.
But some may say that permanent secretaries are permanent for a reason, like to minimize political interference.
Ahead in Newsline Sport, another cricketer in the regional Super 50 tournament reported for a suspect bowling action. The details after the break.
After an emergency, you can help yourself and others by looking, listening, and linking.
Looking because you want to see if the person has some signs that is in distressing. Looking for the symptoms, how best you can support the person. And then listening, because listening is very important. Listening with your ears, listening with your eyes. If you do that well, then you'll be able to link them to the appropriate resources.
Be ready, look, listen, and link.
Let me start with you, Mr. Wimstone. What would need to happen? You say you support this. What needs to be built first?
Well, cities are more than buildings, as has been said here. And unfortunately, we're not hearing the discourse about the other things. Public space, public parks, proper pedestrian-friendly streets, a general...
What's that?
It's streets with proper sidewalks.
There are a lot of kids today who are acting out because they don't have the professor or someone who's focused enough or involved enough with that individual to say, you know what, you have something, I'm here to help you discover it.
Yeah, I used to be a school principal of Ross Elementary School in DC and assistant principal of Tapman Elementary School, so I saw firsthand how kids can get discounted very early on in life. And I think that moment when a child is discounted, whether it's a teacher or whether it's the parents.
Okay, now that that's broken and cut into the flour, we're going to go in with some fresh ginger, and I love putting tons of ginger when I make kurma. So feel free to put as much or as little as you want. And guys, if you wanted a soft kurma, just add a little bit of baking powder to this and you can get a soft kurma. And I'm gonna go in with some sweetened condensed milk. And I'm just going to mix that in.
Continuing with sports, on the heels of Guyanese bowler Ronsford Beaton being suspended for a suspect bowling action during the ongoing regional Super 50 tournament, another cricketer has been reported for similar action. In a release issued on Thursday, Cricket West Indies CWI confirmed that Jamaica Scorpions off-spinner Jamie Merchant was cited by match officials after he bowled his allotted 10 overs during the game against Canada at Warner Park, which the Scorpions won by 4 wickets. CWI says it will arrange for an opinion report of the bowling action of the 30-year-old Merchant from an independent assessor, but he is permitted to continue bowling until the results are known. It says video footage from the game will be sent to Loughborough University in the United Kingdom for an opinion report in accordance with the CWI regulations for dealing with suspected illegal bowling actions. Fast bowler Beaton was earlier this week suspended after he was reported by umpires for a suspect bowling action during the match between his Guyana Jaguars and the United States. Staying with cricket, Nkrumah Bonner sustained his great form with a fourth List A 100 before off-spinner Jamie Merchant snatched a 4-wicket haul as Jamaica Scorpions exacted revenge on Group A leaders Barbados Pride with a 26-run victory on Wednesday. Behind Bonner's near run-a-ball 112, Scorpions piled up a tournament-best 331 for 9 off their 50 overs at Connery, with West Indies all-rounder Rodman Powell falling narrowly short of his second century of the campaign, blasting a 59-ball 97. In reply, Pride came up short on 305 for 8, despite a superb effort from captain Jonathan Carter, who made 97 off 90 balls. Opener Lenico Boucher struck a breezy 47, while all-rounder Roshan Primus lashed an unbeaten 39 down the order, but Merchant proved the difference with a destructive spell of 4 for 35. The victory for Scorpions was an important one as it revived their semi-final quest, pulling them alongside second-placed Leeward Island Hurricanes on 16 points. West Indies spin duo Jomel Warrican and Rakeem Cornwall exploited friendly conditions to combine for 9 wickets as the Caribbean side took control of their tour match against an Afghanistan Cricket Board 11 on Thursday. Resuming the second day on 49 for 3, the Board 11 started strongly as Javed Ahmad added 41 for the 4th wicket with Ashgar Afghan on 10. Left-armer Warrican snatched 5 for 38 and off-spinner Cornwall 4 for 54, 2 accurate and unrelenting spells that saw the hosts crumble for 158 in their first innings and concede a 10-run lead to the West Indies. Ahmad converted his overnight 21 into a top score of 56, but no other batsman shown. Sunal Ambrose then slammed a stroke-filled 66, while Roston Chase fashioned a patient 57 as West Indies reached 217 for 7 in their second innings at the close. And West Indies women's bid to avoid their second straight whitewash in 2020s failed on Wednesday night when they went down by 61 runs in the final match of the 5-match series. Choosing to bat first, India women got unbeaten half-centuries from Vida Krishnamurthy and Jemima Rodriguez to get up to 134 for 3 off their 20 overs. In reply, the West Indies run chase never took flight and wickets tumbled regularly. Natasha McLean belted a 6 but then holed out on the mid-wicket boundary off spinner Anuja Patel in the 4th over, and 2 balls later in the same over, Shadeen Nation missed a sweep and was LBW to the first ball she faced. Chanel Henry and Matthews also fell cheaply as West Indies crawled to 31 for 4 in the 11th over, all but ending the game as a contest. Last September, West Indies were thrashed 3-0 by Australia women in the lopsided series in Barbados. Over to football now. The High Court in Trinidad has ordered the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association to pay former head coach of the senior men's football team, Stephen Hart, $5 million TT for wrongful dismissal and unpaid salaries. According to the Trinidad Guardian newspaper, Justice Eleanor Donaldson Honeywell granted Hart a default judgment against the TTFA after it failed to register a defense to the former coach's claim. Hart was seeking to be compensated for unpaid salaries of $20,000 between September and October 2015 and September and November 2016. The Trinidadian, who is currently head coach of Halifax Wanderers in Canada, also made claims for $10,000 bonuses for leading the team to the state of World Cup qualification and an additional $7,444 in travel, food and baggage expenses he incurred between 2015 and 2016. Back in 2016, Hart was fired by the current executive of the TTFA, led by David John Williams, after Trinidad and Tobago failed to qualify for the 2018 World Cup in Russia. However, he led TNT in 2 Gold Cup campaigns in 2013 and 2015, where they made it to the knockout stages. Bermuda captain Dante Levrock has expressed disappointment after his team's hopes of retaining their CONCACAF Nations League top-flight status were dashed by Uriel Antuna's winner deep into injury time as Gold Cup champions Mexico won 2-1 on Tuesday night. Leverock, who gave Bermuda a shock 10th-minute lead with a header from Osagi Bascom, said, quote, "I'm disappointed. It's tough to concede with 40 seconds left, but I'm proud of my boys who fought hard," end quote. Bermuda had needed at least a draw to guarantee finishing above Panama in the three-team group and avoid relegation to League B. Bermuda lost 4-1 at home to Panama before winning the away leg 2-0. They lost their home leg against Mexico 5-1. And finally, basketball. We go to basketball, where reigning regional champs Guyana will be scouting for talent next year's Caribbean Basketball Championships when they take on Grenada in December. The details in this HGP Sport report.
In the new month, this friendly encounter is fixed to get the local basketballers in shape for next year's Caribbean Basketball Championship. Speaking with the media on Tuesday, head coach of the Guyana Amateur Basketball Federation, Junior Hercules, is adamant that the youngsters here will give a good account of themselves and defend their title, won on the Dutch soil last year. He noted too that while there are many cases where finding players do pose a problem, in this case, players are actually informing the Federation of their availability.
One of the benefits of being the Caribbean champions is that at the level of selection, it allows for us, we are now more at a position where we have more foreign players who are actually interested in playing for us. So while years before we would seek out, we have players who are saying, I'm ready. So, I mean, that's a good thing to have. I mean, obviously you need to support it with respect to funds, but a player that we really would want to see put on that jersey is the James brother, and I think we have that opportunity. So this tournament provides us with an option to say we have local players, but also we want to make sure that there is probably a core. So come 2020, we can easily make that transition. So in terms of preparation, given the limited resources, we can make a transition because most of the players are familiar with each other.
And that's the sport. We'll be right back.
On this edition of Caribbean Passport, we relive highlights of CarFesta 14's opening ceremony. Lots to do, lots to see as we explore Destination Barbados. And we continue our look into the Sustainable Tourism Conference held in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. All this and more right here on this station.
Again, the major developments of this day: a Cadres poll predicts victory for Dominica's ruling party in next month's general election. And in sport, Jamaica Scorpions off-spinner Jamie Merchant reported for a suspected bowling action. And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to CaribNews.com, and for more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and have yourselves a good night.